Okay, so it's getting late. What I'm going to do is quickly get to this a form of migration that has is what we're talking about. This Stolt extended Claerbout III. Again, Claerbout III. All that means is predict the. If someone stops you in the elevator and says, "Tell me quickly, what is the difference between 2 and 3?" Okay, 2 and 3, we're just going to go to the 6th floor and get out. Here's the difference. In 2, you take the field back, the data back. You don't take the source forward. You take the source field forward. You don't move the source in. In 3, you predict the source in and the receiver in. That's what makes an experiment. You understand? In 2, you take the source field forward, yes? And the reflection back. You didn't bring the source in. You took its field forward and you made them, okay? That is all the difference, the huge difference. One you have what a physical experiment will do in the earth. The other is, so what I'm going to do is quickly get you to a formula that gives you the ability to do Stolt extended Claerbout III, which means a predicted source and receiver experiment where the medium that it went through can be heterogeneous. So it's not assuming one way. That could be because of multiples, which is what we're going to use it for, to figure out what happens to primaries or multiples. Yes? You understand? Because they're two-way. Or to do migration in anything but homogeneous. Yes? For the reasons we mentioned. I don't want to move into tomorrow's subject, which is looking in detail at 2 and 3. You understand? I'm trying to just, what is my objective right now? The next subject is, we're involved in the multiple removal business. The question is why? Yes? What happens to a migration that brings the source and receiver down, where the source and receiver contains primaries and multiples? Yes? What happens to the multiples? Do they give you some information? Yes? Of course, for me, Claerbout III is the most physically clear, meaning there's no ambiguity. You're never going to see Claerbout III where people argue about the denominator. The meaning of the source and receiver at depth has a physical meaning. You go to George Green and he tells you from surface measurements how to predict a receiver and then how to bring a source. Yes? Okay. You get my meaning with the denominator, right? Claerbout II. Okay. So, we went through this. There's a Claerbout II. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I want to get to. So this is what we said before. If you have this interest in predicting a receiver inside a medium, and if a wave is moving up, and you only have measurements on top, then you pick in that formula G0 is G0 minus, and that integral P grade G0 blah blah blah, the contribution from the bottom is 0, so I don't need it. Yes? As long as the wave is moving up. If you pick G0 plus, you'll need information on the bottom, but not the top. Since we have information on the top in reflection seismology, we pick that for wave moving up. The question is, if the wave is not moving up, okay, for whatever reason, if you have a heterogeneous, if you have any deviation from homogeneous, the wave is not moving in one direction, not in any point. In other words, if you have a smoothly varying medium and you're assuming it's moving in one direction, like WKBJ, that's a high frequency approximation. If we're trying to avoid that, understand? Nothing other than homogeneous is moving in one direction at any point for us. Understood? So you don't have to get very far to have two-way waves. This is two-way, yes, but for us, not enough. At every point, it's got to be two-way. Understand? At every point, it's not going in one direction. Clear? Overall, it can be two-way, and every point, it's got to be two-way if the medium is not homogeneous. Why? We're after frequency fidelity, yes? Do what we can do, yes? That's the point. Don't add to, back to that earlier, yes? Okay. So the question is, if that arrow is not going up, well, how do you get rid of the lower surface? It's that simple. That's what you do when you, the arrow's going up. This is, now you have this, I gotta get rid of the lower surface. Just pick a Green's function such that it and its derivative both vanish on the bottom. That's simple. Give me a medium and make the Green's function and its derivative both vanish on the bottom. And that contribution on the bottom doesn't come in, yes? Because even if I had that information, it wouldn't count. So I don't need it, yes? And that's it. So it looks like we call that G0DN. One of these brings the receiver down, and then you do Green's theorem on top of that, bringing the source down. Yes? That's the story. So there's work with Professor Funky and myself. We're gonna, in other words, what happened? We need a multiple signal noise, please. Okay.